I stood in his office, watching him kneel. 36 hours ago, he had made me feel smaller than dust. Now, tears ran down his face as he begged for my signature. The mahogany desk between us held a single document, its white pages catching the morning light like a blade. "Please," he whispered, voice cracking. "I'll do anything." I set the champagne down slowly, letting the crystals tap against the wood. The sound echoed in the quiet room. My fingers traced the edge of the contract that could save his empire or watch it burn. To understand why I felt no mercy, you need to know what happened at that dinner. You need to understand what it feels like when someone strips away your dignity in front of everyone who matters, leaving you humiliated while they laugh. You need to know about the night Richard Beckham decided to destroy me. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a courier who waited while I signed for it. The envelope alone probably cost more than my monthly subway pass. Cream-colored paper, thick as fabric, my name written in gold calligraphy that caught the light. The Beckham Foundation cordially invites you. I stood in my apartment doorway, still in pajamas, reading the words 3 times before they sank in. The Beckham Foundation, controlling half the city's development projects, throwing charity galas that made headlines, led by a CEO whose face appeared on Forbes twice a year. My phone buzzed. "Angela, did you get it?" Her voice crackled with excitement. "How did you?" I started. "I recommended you." "Can you believe it?" They actually listened. "You're going to the autumn benefit dinner." My stomach dropped. Angela meant well. She had been helping me network since I started my consulting firm 2 years ago. But the Beckham dinner wasn't just any event. It was a gathering of the city's elite, people who owned the buildings I walked past, who made decisions affecting millions. "I don't belong there," I said. "Stop that. You absolutely belong. Your environmental impact algorithms are revolutionary. You just need the right people to see them." I sank onto my couch. Outside, the city stretched endlessly, glass towers reflecting the morning sun like mirrors. Somewhere, Richard Beckham was probably reviewing his guest list, seeing my name, a nobody, among the powerful surnames of the city. "It's in 3 days," I said. "Perfect. Go shopping tomorrow. You need something spectacular." The dress Angela picked out cost more than I'd spent on clothes in 5 years. Black silk that flowed over my body like water, catching the light in subtle ways that made me look expensive, like I belonged. "You look like money," Angela said. "Old money, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself." Standing outside the Beckham Hotel that Friday evening, I felt like a fraud. The building rose into the night sky, Art Deco preserved from the 1920s, every window glowing gold. Bentleys and Rolls-Royces curved around the circular drive. My Uber pulled up between a Lamborghini and a vintage Aston Martin. The driver raised an eyebrow. "You sure this is the right address?" I wanted to tell him no, to hide under my covers. Instead, I tipped him and stepped out into air smelling of expensive perfume and possibility. The doorman didn't even check my invitation. Maybe it was the dress or the way Angela had taught me to carry myself, spine straight, chin up, eyes forward. He nodded and opened the door. The lobby hit me like a force. Crystal chandeliers threw light across marble floors, so polished I could see my reflection. A string quartet played in the corner, their music floating through conversations in at least 4 languages. Everyone moved with purpose toward the ballroom. That's when I saw him. Richard Beckham stood near the entrance. Even if I hadn't recognized him from magazine covers, I would have known he was the center of this universe. People orbited him, waiting for their moment. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, silver in his dark hair, a face that belonged on currency. But his eyes stopped me, gray like winter storms missing nothing. Our eyes met across the lobby. His gaze traveled from my face to my shoes, then back up, calculating. A frown creased his forehead as if I was a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Then someone touched his elbow, and he turned away. I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The ballroom was a temple to excess. Tables draped in cream silk, each centerpiece a small forest of white orchids, probably more expensive than my rent. The ceiling painted like the night sky with tiny LED stars. A jazz band played on a raised platform, smooth as aged whiskey. I found my place card near the middle of the room. Angela was 3 tables away, deep in conversation with a man from financial news. He caught my eye and winked. "Is this seat taken?" I looked up. A woman in her 60s, wearing pearls that probably had their own insurance policy, smiled warmly, but with a calculating edge. "Please," I said, gesturing to the chair beside me. She settled in gracefully. "Margaret Rothschild. I don't believe we've met." "Evelyn Grant," I replied. Her eyebrows rose. "Grant. Grant, not the environmental systems analyst." The surprise must have shown on my face. She laughed, a sound like champagne bubbles. "Your paper on sustainable urban development was all my nephew could talk about. Quite brilliant, really, using predictive modeling to optimize green space allocation." Heat rose to my cheeks. "Thank you. I didn't realize anyone actually read it." "The right people read everything, dear. The trick is becoming one of the right people," she whispered. The lights dimmed. Richard Beckham took the stage. The room fell silent. He stood at the podium with effortless confidence. "Welcome, friends, to our annual autumn benefit." His voice carried to every corner. He spoke of the foundation's work, millions raised for education and healthcare. His words painted hope and change. But I watched his eyes. They swept the room, cataloging faces, measuring worth. When they landed on me, they paused, just long enough to make my pulse skip. Then he continued scanning. Something in his expression had changed. Tightened. Margaret noticed too. "Well, that's interesting. Richard never looks at anyone twice unless they're worth his time or they're a problem. I wonder which one you are." The speech ended to applause. Servers brought the first course, something architectural with foam and microgreens, more art than food. I reached for my water when a shadow fell across the table. "Ladies." Richard Beckham stood beside my chair. I could smell his cologne. Dark, complex, expensive. I saw the fine lines around his eyes, a slight scar through his left eyebrow. "Richard." Margaret's voice was neutral. "Careful. How lovely to see you, Margaret." He nodded, but his eyes were on me. "I don't believe I've had the pleasure." "Richard Beckham." His hand extended. I took it, palm damp. "Evelyn Grant." He said my name like he was tasting it. "And what brings you to our little gathering, Miss Grant?" "The invitation," I said simply. "By whom?" Margaret shifted subtly. A warning, but his casual arrogance made my spine straighten. "Does it matter?" Around us, I felt all eyes turning. Sharks sensing blood in the water. "Everything matters, Miss Grant." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "For instance," he said, "it matters that I know everyone in this room, their families, their businesses, their contributions to our city." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Everyone except you. Perhaps your knowledge isn't as complete as you thought." Someone at the next table gasped. Richard's smile widened, but it was the smile of a predator recognizing prey who had just made a fatal mistake. "Perhaps not," he said softly. "Tell me, what is it you do, Miss Grant? How do you contribute?" The word hung in the air. Conversation stopped. We were theater, entertainment for the city's elite. "I run a consulting firm, Environmental Systems Analysis Consulting," I said. He drew out the words like they tasted bad. "How modern. And where did you study?" "State University." "State." Another word turned weapon. How refreshingly common. My face burned, but my voice stayed steady. "I wasn't aware this was an academic review." "Everything is a review, Miss Grant. Every room you enter, every conversation you have, especially rooms like this." He gestured at the opulence around us. "There are 2 types of people here tonight. Those who build legacies and those who," he paused, eyes glittering, "consult for them." A few chuckles rippled through the audience. Margaret's hand found my wrist under the table, a gentle pressure warning me to stop, to yield, to survive. I was 28, and I had worked 18-hour days for 2 years to build something from nothing. And this man in his $10,000 suit wanted to reduce me to nothing because I hadn't been born into the right zip code. "You're right," I said, standing slowly. He had 3 inches on me, even in my heels. There are 2 types of people here. Those who earn their place, and those who inherited it. Silence followed. Even the servers froze mid-step. Richard's face went cold, marble still. When he spoke again, his voice dropped so only those close could hear. But somehow that made it worse. Careful, Miss Grant. You're speaking about things you don't understand. About people whose foundations run deeper than your entire existence. He leaned closer, words meant for me alone. You think your little algorithms and models matter? You think typing on a computer makes you valuable? You're playing with toys while the adults reshape the world. He straightened, voice rising so everyone could hear again. But please educate us. Share your vast wisdom earned from your state education. Tell us how someone who's never built anything, never risked anything, never created a single job or a lasting institution knows better than 3 generations of civic leadership. My throat was dry as sand. Words piled up behind my teeth, but wouldn't come. Faces watched with the hungry anticipation of Romans at the Colosseum. I thought not. His smile was triumphant now. You see, this is the problem with opening doors too wide. People wander in who don't understand the language being spoken, who mistake invitation for belonging. He turned to the wider audience, playing to the crowd. Education isn't just about degrees, is it? It's about understanding refinement, things that can't be learned from textbooks or, he glanced back at me, community college spreadsheets. The laughter started. Not everyone. Margaret remained silent beside me. But enough to make my chest cave in, enough to make my eyes burn with tears I refused to shed. You know what your problem is, Miss Grant? Richard continued, drunk on his own cruelty. You're uneducated. Oh, not in the traditional sense. I'm sure you can recite formulas and theories with the best of them, but uneducated in the ways that matter, in understanding your place, in recognizing the difference between those who belong and those who are merely, he paused, savoring it, tolerated. Something inside me shattered like winter ice. Excuse me, I managed, my voice barely a whisper. I turned and walked away, forcing myself not to run, not to give him that satisfaction. The crowd parted before me, a sea of faces, some pitying, some amused, all witnessing my humiliation. The ballroom door seemed miles away, but I kept walking, my heels clicking on marble in a rhythm that sounded like, "Get out, get out, get out." Behind me, I heard Richard's voice, casual again, dismissive. Now, where were we? Yes. The Foundation's expansion into overseas markets. As if destroying someone was just a brief interruption in his evening. I made it to the bathroom before the tears came. The ladies' lounge was as excessive as everything else. Pink marble counters, gold fixtures, fresh roses in crystal vases. I locked myself in the furthest stall and finally let my body shake with the sobs I had been holding back. Uneducated. The word echoed in my skull, bouncing off every insecurity I'd ever had. Every time I'd felt out of place at industry events. Every time someone's eyes slid over me when they heard where I went to school. Every small dismissal I had told myself didn't matter. Then the door opened. Heels clicked across marble. Angela's voice. Evelyn, I know you're in here. Someone saw you come in. Please go away. My voice was thick and broken. I can't face anyone. You don't have to face anyone. Just me. Slowly, I reached out and unlocked the door. Angela pulled me into a hug, arms fierce around me. That bastard, she whispered against my hair. That absolute bastard. He was right. The words came out between hiccuping breaths. I don't belong here. I don't understand their world. Stop, Angela said, gripping my shoulders. Stop right now. You know what Richard Beckham is? He inherited everything and built nothing. His grandfather made the fortune. His father grew it. Richard just sits on it like a dragon on gold, breathing fire at anyone who reminds him he's never earned anything himself. But everyone laughed, I said bitterly. Not everyone. And the ones who did? Cowards. They laugh at whoever Richard points at because they're terrified of being next. She pulled tissues from her clutch, dabbing carefully at my face to preserve what was left of my makeup. You know the real joke? Angela's voice was fierce. Half the people in that room would kill for your brain. Do you know how many companies have tried to poach my recommendation of you?
But no.
Richard Beckham feels threatened by someone who actually works for a living, so he has to tear you down to feel big. The door opened again. Margaret Rothschild entered, her expression unreadable. Angela moved slightly, positioning herself between Margaret and me. Practical, she whispered. It's all right, Margaret said softly. I come in peace and with intelligence. She set her clutch on the counter and faced us fully. Richard Beckham is a small man with a large inheritance. But what he doesn't know, what he's too arrogant to have researched, is that you, my dear, are about to become very important to him. I laughed bitterly. I doubt that. Do you know what Monday is? The 15th, I said. The deadline for the Riverside Development Project, the largest urban renewal initiative in the city's history, $60 billion in investment. She paused, watching my face. A project that requires environmental impact approval from the city's newly appointed consulting firm. My blood went cold.
No.
Oh yes. As of yesterday afternoon, your firm was selected as the primary environmental assessment consultant. The mayor's office was impressed by your innovative modeling techniques. Richard's company needs your signature on their impact statement by Monday, or they lose their spot as the primary developer. Angela grabbed my arm. Are you serious? Quite serious. The announcement won't be public until Monday morning, but I have friends in the mayor's office. Margaret smiled, sharp as winter. Richard just publicly humiliated the one person who holds his $60 billion project in her hands. I stared at her, unable to process it. How did he not know? Because Richard Beckham doesn't pay attention to the little people until they become big problems. He assumes his team handles the details. He shows up for photo ops and signatures. She picked up her clutch. His arrogance just cost him everything. What do I do? I asked. Margaret studied me for a long moment. That depends. Margaret's eyes held mine, steady and unblinking. First, she said, take a deep breath. You've already won more than you realize. You survived that room. You kept your head when he tried to crush you. I sank onto the counter, still trembling. But he humiliated me in front of everyone. I felt worthless. Angela tightened her grip on my shoulder. Worthless?
No.
Richard Beckham doesn't get to decide your value. Not now, not ever. You're the one with the knowledge he needs. That gives you the power, whether he realizes it yet or not. Margaret nodded. Exactly. You're holding the key to a $60 billion project. He doesn't control that. You do. I swallowed hard. The reality of her words hit me in waves. Richard had spent the night showing the room that he could intimidate anyone, that he could humiliate me publicly and make himself feel superior. Yet he didn't even know I controlled the one thing his company desperately needed. Think about it, Margaret continued, her voice calm but sharp. He walks around like a king, but kings fall when their castles are built on sand. His empire isn't as untouchable as he believes. And right now, you are the only person standing between his company and disaster. Angela handed me a tissue. Do you understand? You're not the problem in that room. You're the solution he needs. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breath. My heels clicked softly against the marble as I stood. But what do? I can't just call him and make demands. He'll see it as revenge. I need a plan. Margaret smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips. Oh, you'll need more than a plan. You'll need to turn the situation to your advantage. Let him think he's in control while you quietly lead him to exactly where you want him. I frowned. Manipulate him? Not manipulate, Margaret said.
Direct.
You've earned your position. He's the one who doesn't realize it yet. Your firm's expertise isn't just technical, it's strategic. And now, you have leverage he would never imagine. I let that sink in. Leverage. For the first time, the humiliation of the evening began to feel less like a scar and more like fuel. Fuel to do exactly what needed to be done. To reclaim dignity. to show that I wasn't just a state university girl with formulas and charts. I was someone who could command respect, even from a man like Richard Beckham. Here's what you do first, Margaret said, pulling out her phone. You gather all your documentation, your models, your projections. Every analysis you've done for this project, every environmental simulation, every risk assessment. Make it impossible for him to argue or delay. Angela nodded. And don't do it from your office. Make him come to you. Let him realize that if he wants this, he has to earn it. I took a deep breath. And if he refuses? Or tries to play his usual power games? Margaret's eyes sharpened. Then you remind him that power without knowledge is empty. You hold the keys to the future of his project.